Hello and welcome to the Accountants Mastermind. In this webinar today, I am going to be joined by Bogdan from Apron and Martin from Onside Accounting. Bogdan is going to talk to you all about how to increase your fees by managing supplier and payroll payments. And Martin was going to talk to you about how he has implemented Apron within his practice and what it saved his customers and also his practice in time. So let's get started. I'd just like to welcome Martin and Bogdan into the room.
All right, let's see if it works. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today.
I'll let you get on with it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We'll discuss payments as a service today and how to increase your fees through managing supplier and payroll payments for your clients. And we have Martin today and myself. Martin runs now officially one of the best firms in the country called Onside, according to recent Accounting Excellence Awards, a new firm of the year. Martin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thanks for throwing that in there, Bogdan.
Of course. And Martin started this firm about 2-3 years ago, I believe, same time as we set up Apron. And I'm the founder and CEO at Apron, and we're a tech company simplifying SMB payments and working a lot with accountants and bookkeepers also. So let's look into the agenda for today. So we'll cover the opportunity payments as a service presents for your firm. We'll go through what supply and payroll payment service looks like. Pitching and pricing. We'll have a short demo in the end, and then we'll have Q&A also. And I think Mark is still with us, and Mark will be looking into the Q&A chat. So if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to post, and then we'll cover them as we go. So let's keep it informal, informative, so that it's useful for everyone. Martin, anything you want to add before we jump into our questions?
Just a quick intro, really. So I'm Martin Brennan, founder and CEO of Onside Accounting and Onside Tax. As Bogdan mentioned, we're 3 years old. We're a fully remote practice of 29 people spread all over the UK. And we specialize in venture capital-backed technology startups providing accounting and tax advisory services. So yeah, we use Apron as our sole provider for accounts payable solutions.
Yeah, thanks for that, Martin. Thank you. Cool. All right, so going into let's chat about the opportunity and the whole topic of payments as a service. It's new. A lot of people do it, and Martin is one of them, as he mentioned. And let's chat a little bit about what the whole kind of fuss is about, right? And to begin with, a bit of stats from recent research from Xero, who found that 45% of small businesses spend at least 4 hours a month managing their accounts payable, and 35%, a third, struggle to pay bills on time. Martin, a question to you here: Have you seen these challenges play out with your clients, and what opportunity does this create for accountants and bookkeepers and for your firm specifically?
Yeah, there's a lot I could go into. I focused on the 3 things that are most important to us. And I think that the main one in small business generally is that the customer, or the key contact at the customer, is often the one of or the busiest person in the business that you're trying to support, right? So we're often dealing with a founder, maybe like an operations lead or head of operations, something like that. And these people are very, very busy. Often they don't realize that the bank payments is something that they can outsource, or they don't realize that they can outsource it in a secure way, i.e. without giving access to the bank account and the risks that presents. So I think sometimes it's just an awareness thing, and it depends, what types of clients you're looking after. But in our case, yeah, they're very fast scaling tech startups with very, very busy founders. And if we can take the pressure off them by managing payments once a week or once a fortnight or once a month, depending on their needs, then that's a big help to them. So we noticed a big opportunity there a couple of years ago, and we look after payments for around a quarter of our clients now, I think. Second, I think it's quite rare to have accounts payable and bookkeeping in the same place, and that presents a good opportunity, because I think most people in my situation want to simplify their tech stack and their offering. So having the bookkeeping solution that Apron launched around 6 months ago, to now complement the accounts payable piece is super valuable, and we've been able to consolidate our tech stack slightly and have a much more simple solution. And third, and most important, is that there are huge security issues with dealing with bank payments for clients, and you might have seen some stuff in the news yesterday about BBC did an article about Revolut users, for example, and we've had 3 clients of ours have their accounts hacked at some point in the last couple of years. And it can be very distressing. So me as a practice owner, luckily we were not doing bank payments for those 3 clients, but it started to give me sleepless nights, and we were thinking, well, how can we continue to offer the accounts payable service without having access to any bank accounts? And Apron does just that. So we still have all the benefit of the OCR technology. We can still create batch payments and manage the account checking process, all of that for the client, and just give them a single payment link that they can take and log into the bank on their end, meaning that our service stays the same as it was, and the client gets a really simple one payment to execute, rather than 20 or 30 different bills being entered and all of the time that takes. So the security one is a big one. Also, I assume that the audience is mainly practice owners. One of the things that I looked into a couple of years ago was whether we could get insured for this kind of thing, and the answer was no. So if you are giving bank payments as a service and you do have outright access to make payments on a client's behalf, i.e. there's no approval steps, anything like that, then you potentially have an insurance risk, and that's probably the most important part of the security issue for you. So those are the 3 things that I noted down, Bogdan, in terms of the opportunity.
Yeah, it's great insights. That's great insights. Thanks so much for this, Martin. Founder is a bottleneck. I can definitely relate to that, and we'll chat more today, later today, about how you pitch the service to these busy folks. So that would be super insightful. And then you also mentioned security issues, and when we started Apron almost 3 years ago now, we also saw that a lot of people want to run those services, want to offer AP as a service, payment service, but no one wants to get access to client bank, rightfully so, and not many clients want to give access away to people from their accounting and bookkeeping firms. So, as we'll see in the demo later, one of the main kind of sources of magic of our solution is that we allowed people to run the services without getting access to clients' banks, as Martin highlighted. So we'll show you how it works. And another question for you, Martin, also in this bucket of the opportunity. You talked a little bit about this, but would love to get in more detail. In how significant do you think the demand for outsourced accounts payable service is? Is this something most accounting firms should be offering to their clients, or like you think it's more of a niche service that some accounting firms should be offering to clients?
I think it's definitely in the some category. The reason I say that is some accountants specialize in, say, contractors and freelancers. So I use that example because I used to work for part of a group that had 19,000 clients that were all one-man limited companies, or providing consulting services. They don't need an AP solution, and they're generally paying £100 a month for accounting services, so they probably don't need to layer on the fee for bank payments on top of that as well. And then I think on the other end of the spectrum, when the clients get to a certain size where they're probably too big, they have internal finance people, maybe a financial controller or a finance assistant type, and it's probably better to do that thing in-house. I think that outsourcing generally costs more than what it costs for your own employees to do it. So if you've got that capability in-house, then it makes sense for somebody in-house to do it. Having said that, we can
Yeah.
still give them access to Apron, and we can still, explain the benefits of the software. But I think that if you're dealing with sort of, medium-sized businesses and above, then yeah, they probably have finance people in-house that can do it. So I think there's a really big sweet spot in between, which is kind of the general sort of small business space where companies aren't big enough to have a finance person. Either they can't afford it or they just don't need it. There isn't enough work for them to do. I think if your clients are in that category, then yes, an AP solution is definitely for you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's what we also see, and we were also surprised to see how many different industries have those small businesses in the sweet spot with lots of payables to process, and like obviously hospitality and construction, but also industries like creative, healthcare. We serve a lot of dental practices, etc., etc. We definitely agree the market for this is huge, and as long as you serve VAT registered businesses that are in the sweet spot as described by Martin, so not big enough to have internal finance person, yeah, all those people would definitely benefit from someone helping them with the AP process. That's same page here, and switching gears a bit, let's dive into the details of what this service looks like. Martin, if you could walk us through the main steps involved in managing supplier and payroll payments for your clients, that would be great. And maybe we can chat about the old ways, how it used to work, because you've spent 20 years in the industry, if I remember correctly, right? Before you started on-site, you've worked for other firms. You've seen it all pretty much.
Since 2007. So yeah, there was a time where we were, in one company, which is now part of a top 10 firm. The process was so complicated that every single time you had a new joiner or a leaver, you had to order new Barclays devices or new HSBC keypads and stuff like that. And we had like this safe in the room with just full of security devices and wires and all this kind of stuff. It was extremely messy, complicated, and that translated into a very expensive service to the client. So yeah, we can talk a little bit about the old days. But nowadays, really, it's a three-step process. The first stage to it is making sure that your bookkeeping is clean, because without clean bookkeeping and up-to-date records, it's very difficult for you to know what your accounts payable looks like. So first and foremost, getting the accounts up to date, clearing down the bank reconciliation, processing your invoices out of Apron, assuming you use an Apron or HubDoc or Dext or whatever it is that you're using, and then you have an accounts payable ledger in Xero that's also in the dashboard within Apron, so it's kind of like for like. It's much easier to look at it out of Apron, in my opinion. And it's really just a case of validating that age payables. So the second stage is, does the age payable make sense? If you've got silly things in there, like things that are always paid by card, for example, like an Uber receipt or a Tesco receipt, something like that, then you want to clean up those things first and make sure that you're left with just payables items. And then third stage is moving to suggested payments for the clients. So we generally take the approach that assuming cash flow allows it, then we'll pay anything that's coming due in the next few days. Anything that's not due for 28 days or whatever, we'll leave that for the next run. So yeah, the third stage is that we propose a set of payments to the owner or the whoever's making the payments internally at the client's end. And one feature I really like in that process is if we send them a list of, say, 19 or say 20 items, and actually they want to withhold payment for one, maybe there's something we don't know about, maybe they're not getting a service from that person they're due to pay, and they want to maybe make 19 payments instead of 20. It's very easy for the person that you're sending the payable run to just edit that one payment and remove it from the list. And if again, just going back to the old days, I remember if we had a backs upload and the client wasn't happy with it, we had to remove the entire thing and do it again. And that took time. So now the customer can just say, okay, I'm happy with these 19 payments, but this one I don't want to pay. So they can edit it themselves and still move forward to payment without it bouncing back to you. some really cool automation in that process as well. So as soon as you confirm that you've made that payment, there's all of those payables items in Xero are marked as paid there and then. So you don't have to wait, 1 day or 2 days for the bank fee to update with the money that's gone out to Apron. It will do it for you, so you can refresh your age payables within minutes, and everything's right up to date. So you're not having to rely on Xero to pull through that payment for you. So yeah, that's the 3-stage process that we follow, and it's pretty reliable and logical.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much, Martin. So you mentioned like the old days and drawers with security devices and box files and kind of resetting those payments if the file isn't right. You'll be surprised how much of it we still see in the market. Like pretty much the entire market, the entire industry, people who offer payments as a service are still doing all of that, and it's just very, very early days for tech innovation in this space. And like large firms come to us, very, very kind of tech advanced, you would think, but they all do the same thing, like drawers with security devices, box files flying around.
I think most of the high street banks are now moving away from the keypads, but they still have the option. And there's still lots of people on the legacy system, and then people moving over to the new one. So I know NatWest is sort of in that in-between phase. Same with Barclays, same with HSBC. The main thing that we see customers sort of wasting time on really is not necessarily those clunky log-on processes and approval processes, but more they actually don't realize that they don't need to be adding payees. They don't need to be adding sort codes and account numbers. They don't realize that there is technology out there that will kind of scrape that from the invoice for you, and then actually check it using open banking to make sure that the recipient details match. So Apron does that for you, which is just a really good sort of fraud prevention step. So if you've got an invoice that somehow made its way through to your age payables through a dodgy email or something like that, then you've got that step to pick it up. And likewise, we're all capable of mistyping something or transposing a figure, and having that check just make sure that the sort code and the account number match perfectly at the supplier's end.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we'll see in the demo how it works. But yeah, it definitely protects people from invoice fraud and typos, etc. Very recently, we had a customer who reached out and said that they got a fraudulent invoice. So someone was impersonating their supplier and sent them a 40K invoice, and they caught it because we showed them that account name didn't match. And like you can imagine the impact on business this could have. 40K paid to a fraudster. For some businesses, this could be kind of the end of their business. So yeah, AP controls are incredibly important. Security controls, fraud controls. So we'll see all of that in the second part of our session today. And another question here for you, Martin. How do you integrate this service into your firm's operations? Is it a seamless part of your workflow, or do you have dedicated team members for it who kind of run the service for your clients?
It's very seamless. We have 4 accounting teams, and they all do the same thing. And every member of staff in every team is comfortable using Apron now. So for me personally, I just believe in if you have a business that's growing quickly, you need to keep it as simple as possible. And we've gone from kind of 1 to 30 people in just over a couple of years, and it's very difficult to train a team on lots of different ways of working, lots of different systems. So we have a very simple business. Every client's on Xero, every payroll client's on BrightPay, and every payables client is on Apron, and so it makes it very easy for us to document processes and have something that a new employee can come in and understand quite quickly. So yeah, generally we follow the process that the bookkeeping cycle and the bank payment cycle are simultaneous. So if you're doing bookkeeping fortnightly, you'll do a payment run fortnightly as well. And we also now offer it for payroll. So if you've got a company with like 50 employees and you can extract a bank file from the likes of BrightPay, then you can easily load payroll payments as well as supplier payments. So that's been a new service that we've incorporated a couple of months back, and it's working just as seamlessly. So I think it's just fit into our existing processes, our existing cycles, and our pricing model and everything seamlessly, really.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Martin. And Next one up, we have pitching the service to clients. But before we go into that, I suggest we actually do a short demo first, and then we can discuss how to pitch the product, because I think it will be more useful if we see the product first, and then we talk about how to pitch it. So let me share my screen and show you how it all works. Okay, so hopefully we should be able to see the screen now. So let me log in into our demo app. Yeah, so to start from very beginning, we integrate with QuickBooks and Xero. So when you sign up, you can create your account by simply signing up with those guys, or you can do it with your email or Gmail. So I'll continue with my Gmail because I already have an account. So when you're in, you'll have what we call Practice Hub. So you'll have overview of all your clients. You'll have some basic stats, bills ready to pay, documents in inbox, unreconciled transactions. We'll only focus on payments today because we don't have much time. We also do invoice capture and elements of bookkeeping, but we'll only discuss payments in this session. So if I go inside one of my client companies, Brighton Flowers, I can see we have 6 bills ready to pay. So let's see what's going on inside. The 2 main workspaces here is payments and bookkeeping, and we will only be covering payments today. And bookkeeping is where invoice capture lives, but we'll probably do it in another session. And going back to pay, so if you go to this tab, you will see that there are a bunch of invoices that sit in Ready to Pay tab. And the way they get here, 2 sources. So first, we pull them in real time from your ledger, from QuickBooks or Xero, or you can also add invoices directly into Apron, and then we will post it into your ledger. And whatever invoice capture app you're using, is it Apron? Are you using Apron for invoice capture or something else like auto entry, etc.? It doesn't matter. As long as invoices are in the ledger or in Apron, you'll see a up-to-date list of payables here, bills that sit in Ready to Pay. So this demo company is QuickBooks, I believe, but it doesn't matter. It can be Xero. It will work exactly the same. So let me walk you through the process. So as Martin said, you would start with making sure that bookkeeping is done to ensure that the payables are up to date. And then this will ensure that a ready-to-pay list is clean, and those are actual payables and not receipts for Uber, etc. And then from here, what you'd normally do is you'd create a payment run. And in reality, I only have 6, 7 invoices sitting here in my demo company. In reality, you would have a lot more. You would have probably dozens and hundreds with your real clients. And you start with filtering your payables. So you can filter by contacts, you can filter by issue date, and you can also filter by due date. And depending on how you create those payment runs for your clients, is it weekly, bi-weekly? Is there some kind of custom schedule for how you pay your suppliers? So you can set up the filters and understand what needs to be paid as part of this payment run. So for this one, let's simply proceed with choosing contacts we want to pay. So let's say we want to pay these guys, Eloy, we want to pay Mark, and we want to pay the Fresh Olive Company. So 4 bills in total. So what I'll do next is I'll simply select all, and I will proceed to the next screen. I'll click Pay. On the next screen, we'll choose bank account to pay from. And this is really important detail. There is no balance in Apron. Apron is not a wallet solution. So Apron connects to client banks directly. It sits on top of their existing banks. There is no need to top up. You'll see when we execute payments, what we'll do is we'll take the paid on amount from client bank, and then we'll disperse to the recipients, to the suppliers. And the list of banks comes from your ledger, or you can add them manually also from Apron. If you do add them manually, we will also make sure that this is reflected in your ledger software. Xero or QuickBooks. Another cool thing to note here is that we also allow people to pay with a credit card, even when suppliers do not accept the credit card. So let's say your client is facing a cash flow gap, but they have to pay that supplier. So what they can do is they can finance their working capital with their personal Amex, for example, or any other business credit card, for example. And again, what we'll do is we will take money from the card and we will disperse to suppliers. So it doesn't matter whether suppliers accepts cards or not. We're allowed to pay any supplier with a credit card, and that's really useful for smaller businesses who face cash gaps, or businesses in specific industries like e-commerce, for example, where by definition they always run cash flow issues. So I'll choose Lloyd's for this payment, and on the next screen we'll work with supplier details. So a couple of interesting things here. First of all, if I go inside this contact, we flag that it's a new contact and it's a close match. So let's go inside and see what it all means. So first thing you'll notice is that we automatically extracted payment details from this invoice. So when payment details are present on those invoices that either come from your ledger, QuickBooks or Xero, or the attachments can come directly into Apron. It doesn't matter. If payments details are there, we will extract those payment details: sort code, account number, and the account name. Second thing you'll notice here is that we're showing this banner. Account name is a close match. And what's happening here, like Martin mentioned, is we go to the supplier bank and we check that these details are accurate, that this sort code account number corresponds to the supplier name. And in this instance, we see it's a close match. So we can just update our records to make sure we're paying the right recipient. If I click save, we'll see a nice green mark. If on the other hand, I would use something like, I don't know, XYZ Ltd, the supplier bank should receive us an error saying it's no match. Account name doesn't match. And we would also show it in on the previous screen if you go back. So let me go back to the right company name here. Click save. And we'll have a nice reassuring green mark. And all of these changes are also reflected in the audit log for you. So we'll cover more of this in the end of this short demo. But we maintain a very detailed audit log for all changes with contacts, all changes to payroll, who changed them, what changed, etc. So you can access all of it in the Apron app. So I'll go back to the supplier details page, and let me walk you through a couple other useful features here. So next thing we'll notice is that you can amend the amounts, right? So let's say we only agreed to pay 50% of the supplier, so we can amend the amounts. We also have control of the P references. So sometimes your suppliers or your client suppliers will want to receive account number in the payment reference. So you can do that. So we'll change the P reference. By default, we use invoice reference in this field, but you have control over that. And then you'll also notice that we dropped a USD invoice into this payment run. And cool thing about Apron is that we deliver money to UK and abroad, so you can pay to over 150 countries in over 30 currencies, and we give you FX rates that beat Revolut and Wise. So we give you mid-market rates, and we charge 0.5% on top. So whoever you're paying, is it UK, is it international, regardless of currencies and countries, destination countries, you can just throw everything into a single pay run. We'll give you market-leading FX rates, and you can execute all of those payments in one go, as we'll see when we execute this payment run. Mark, a question, I guess, here.
Yes, it is. Yes. So Ian's asked, does it check the bank details scraped from the invoice against those stored in Xero as well?
We don't check against Xero because Xero do not validate those details, and this leads to a lot of mistakes. And people also rarely use Xero as source of truth for supplier payment details. Mostly people rely on bank to store their beneficiary details. So we used to do that, but it led to a lot of issues. So the source of truth now is the invoice itself, the attachment, and then we run confirmation of pay checks to make sure that those details are accurate. So that's how it works.
But then I would also say on that, I've never actually used Xero for that purpose, but I know plenty of people that have. And often when suppliers change their bank details, it doesn't get picked up by anybody, so you can accidentally send money to the old account. Whereas I like the fact that if a supplier changes the bank details, then Apron's kind of taking that on.
Oh yeah,
as soon as they
point.
see the account details for the first time, it will get flagged.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So every time you create a pay run, every time we read those invoices, and if we see new payment details for the supplier who we paid before, we will flag it, and then you'll be able to either update or keep the old details. So that's a really good point. Great. And with international suppliers, again, you can pay anyone in the world, and you can just drop all invoices in whatever currency there are into a pay run. Because of complexity of international payment details, we do not extract them automatically, but we allow you to input manually. So if we say that this is a business, and if we say we're paying to United States, we'll give you the right the corresponding fields to fill out. And because you'll have an invoice on the left, it's very easy to copy paste and save those details, and we'll have them on record for your future payments. Just to save time, let's not do this. So I'll simply drop this invoice from this pay run. And in cases where there are no attachments, so sometimes you'll have bills with no attachments, you can enter details manually. So let me do that. Great. So we threw an error because this is not a real bank account, but we're still allowed to continue. Great. And then finally, another feature I want to show you here is that in instances where you have multiple invoices coming from the same supplier, you can choose how you want to send those payments. So by default, the grouping toggle is on, meaning that Mark in this instance will receive a lump sum, 3,000 for both invoices, but you can untoggle this thing, and what it means is that Mark will receive two payments, 1.5K each. So you also have control over that, depending on how you want to do it. And if all looks good, I will leave a comment to our client saying, "Hey, Martin, this is pay run ABC. Changes made are due to XYZ." Something like that. And if all looks good, we'll click continue, and we'll show this warning saying that we couldn't check all suppliers in this pay run, but we're still allowed to continue. And finally, we will assign approvers. We will assign approvers to this payment. And if I click on this button, assign approvers, this will give us a quite sophisticated approval workflows to play with. And just to give you an idea of how it works, the simplest use case is you have a simple client. They only have one director who will receive those payments, review those payments, and authorize. So we can just add the director on the client side to review and execute those payments. A more sophisticated use case is You also want someone in your firm to have a look at those payments before they go out to client. So we will add, let's say, Yuri, who is a senior person in our firm, to sign off on those payments before they go out to client, to Arthur in this instance. And also we can add as many people as needed here. And those can be people on the firm side, on the client side, and we can also define relationships, approval relationships. So default is a simple sequence. So the payment would go from Yuri to Bogdan to Arthur in the end. We can also define any off relationship. So let's say you have a situation where you have two directors, any one of them can authorize those payments. So we can do that. And pretty much whatever workflow you have with your clients, you can set it up here in this simple multi-step approval workflow. Just to keep things simple, I will leave myself as the payer on the client side. I'll click save, and if all looks good, so we're paying 3 bills, 2 suppliers. We set up bank account. We set up the payer. We'll send this payment for approvals. So that's how we create those pay runs. And in reality, again, this will be a lot more bills. Our record pay run was close to 700 bills, I believe. I think average pay runs are tens of bills, something like 20, 30. But for the purposes of demo, 3 bills is good. So we'll keep it that way. And let me check with Mark if we have any questions. And if we don't, I'll switch hats and I will show you what it looks like for clients.
No, you're all good. I had a couple, but I think you've answered them, and if not, I'll hold off till the end.
Perfect. Sounds good. So let me go into my inbox. Great. Let me share my screen again.
And just as I said that, sorry, one came in.
Yeah.
It was Nigel said, "How do we transfer from a different software?"
We never got this question, really.
I can probably answer that if you want.
Sorry, Martin?
I can probably answer that question if you want, given that we've just moved 100 clients to Apron. So we were previously using Dext, and for costs and other reasons we moved to Apron. And I think the Apron team did a really good article on this recently called "Pitch the Switch." So I'd recommend Googling like how you pitch it to the clients, because the way that you pitch it to the clients kind of explains how you bring it across. But it is really as simple as letting the clients know what you're switching to and why, and just understanding how they're using the system they're currently using. Because if I give you an example, we had one client that had really technical kind of auto forwarding rules set up, so that if an invoice came through to Gmail from a certain supplier name or with a certain email address included, then it knew to automatically forward that email straight to the Dext email address. So we only have one kind of client out of about 100 that had any sort of disruption, and it was that client. So I didn't realize that in the back end of their kind of email settings, they had all that set up. So it was a bit of a hassle for them to move, but the other 99 just were very, very clear on why we were moving, and they were quite happy that it was a cost saver for them, because Apron's product is very competitive price wise, and our clients were paying us £15 a month for Dext, and with Apron they pay nothing, because it's an overhead that's we're quite happy to absorb ourselves. Yeah, just really about how you pitch those things, really.
And Nigel just asked Martin, did you transfer all or some of your clients from Dext?
Everyone. We don't have Dext anymore. We do have one client that wanted to continue with Dext, and we just asked them to take out their own subscription, so that's fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll let you carry on.
Thank you, Martin. Super helpful. And sorry, I assumed the question was about pay, but indeed we have a lot of detailed resources on how you could transition from existing software. And I'll just drop this link into our chat so that you all have it. Just find it. I'll send to everyone. So here is the link that Martin mentioned. Thanks, Martin. Great. So let's go back to that pay run that we created. So I've switched hats now. I'm the client, and what I'll see is I will see an email coming from Apron saying it's your turn to pay. I will see like basic summary of this payment right in the email. So I'll see who we're paying and how much. I'll see who authorized this payment before me, and then I can go to this payment in one click of a button. We will take the clients to this payment page right away. They'll see everything you were able to see when you set up the payment. They will see your comments. They can send you comments back. And this is simply to eliminate that the need to kind of start yet another email thread to discuss the payables. And if needed, and like Martin mentioned, they can also change. They can also make changes to the pay run, so they can remove stuff. They can make partial payments if needed. So let's say we want to pay 1,000 here for this invoice due to some business context that we were not aware of when setting up this payment. And yeah, if the rest looks good, we'll apply changes. We'll hit continue. Again, we'll show that warning that we couldn't match all supplier details. Normally people would go back and work through those details and make sure they're all matching. Sometimes maybe 1% of banks do not support that check, so we're still allowed to continue for that purposes, but we will always throw that warning so that people are aware that there is a risk here. And if all looks good, we'll click pay. So I'm the client now. I have access to Lloyd's. When clients click pay, we will take them to their bank account. And what will happen is we will take the total amount of this pay run, 2,500, from client bank. So they would log in into Lloyd's. They would see everything pre-populated. They would click confirm payment. We will take total amount from their bank and we will disperse money to suppliers. And it doesn't matter how this pay run will be exactly the same process, and it will take your clients exactly the same amount of time to authorize those payments. So in the end, we paid 3 bills in one go, and we set up this payment as an accounting firm, and client authorized in minutes. They can do it on their web, on their computer. They can do it on their mobile. And as you'll see now, you will also get a very nice track of what changed and things that happened. So if I go to the paid tab, we can see that this pay run now moved into paid. And so we paid Mark to invoice to Mark, and then we paid the Fresh Olive Company. And a couple of important things here. So first, if you navigate to QuickBooks, so we will see that we automatically created those payments. We posted those payments to corresponding invoices in your ledger, and it doesn't matter if you use QuickBooks or if you use Xero. The logic is exactly the same. So we post those payments in your ledger software so that reconciliation is as smooth as possible in the end. I'll probably need to use this link again. Yep, perfect. So this is the Fresh Olive Company, and you can see the balance. So we paid this thing. We paid partial. If you remember, we only paid 50. That's why 64 is still outstanding. And this is the payment that Apron created with the unique reference that will help Ledger to automatically match and reconcile. Second thing to note here is that you can batch send remittance advices to all of those people that you just paid. So if we click batch send remittances, we will see all of those suppliers. Where possible, we extract supplier emails either from the attachments from invoices, or we also search Ledger, QuickBooks, or Xero for records. Where we don't have them, you can input manually, and then you can batch send those remittances to everyone you just paid. And then finally, you will also see that you can generate an audit log for all of the payments that you created and authorized with your clients. And this is a extremely detailed breakdown of this payment run. What happened, all the changes made, who made those changes, payment details used, approval workflow used in this payment, payment methods, comments, etc. And then you can also print this audit log in PDF if needed. And so that's supplier payments. Very, very quickly, you can pay, you can set up payroll payments in a very similar way. The only difference is that it starts with a file upload because there are too many payroll software payroll vendors out there. And what you would do with Apron is you would upload a payroll file, and it can come in any format. It can come from any software. It can be file of any type, FPS or box, it doesn't matter. We will read it all. So I have this example from Staffology. So if I upload it, what we'll do is we will read that file and we will extract employee names. We will extract their account details, amounts to be paid. Where the details are missing, you can, just like with supplier payments, you can input things manually. For simplicity, I'll just drop that one. And again, similar with supplier payments, you have control over the references and you have control over the amounts you're paying. We also run a confirmation of pre-checks. So you see there's no match, couldn't check. So we'll click continue. Again, we'll choose bank account to pay from. With payroll, we also allow to set up the delivery date. So we'll set it up as October 31st. And then we'll do the same thing again. So we'll set up approvers and we'll send this pay run for execution to client. A very, very similar process. And then on the client side, again, they'll authorize in a couple of clicks. We'll take them to bank and they will pay everyone in one go. So that's payroll. Mark, you can see there are questions coming probably.
Yeah, there's a question from Roy, which I'll leave to the end because I think that's going to be an easier question, not related to what you're talking about at the moment. But Ian's also asked about, with the money going from the client's bank account to Apron and then out to suppliers, what protections are in place with regards to the client's money sitting in Apron's account before going out to the suppliers?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Great question. So we're a FCA regulated firm. So we have a e-money institution license, and we safeguard all those money. So which means that all client money that touch our accounts, they are safeguarded. They are separate from our company funds, and they sit on ring-fenced accounts. And this is to make sure that in unlikely event that our firm goes bust, all of the funds, all of the client funds are repaid to our customers.
Thank you.
No worries. Great. Fantastic. So anything else I want to cover in payments? So just very quickly, I guess, there is a very sophisticated settings section, and you can set up a lot of things here. Just to give you one example, with approval workflows, you can set up approvers for every pay run that you create, or you can fix those workflows for a company so that every single pay run will go through that exact rigid process. And just very quickly, I'll show you how it works. So we can create a workflow called approvals basic, and we can supplier basic. And we will create this workflow for supplier payments and manual payments. And then we will say that this payment will go through this simple process always. We'll click save. And there we go. That means that any parents that we create from now on will follow this rigid process. And when it comes to permissions that members of companies have, you can also be very, very sophisticated here. So if I go to settings, members, we can play with Arthur roles here. So we can see Arthur has admin role, but if we wanted to give them some specific permissions, we would choose standard role, and then we could decide whether Arthur can only create payment, create and approve, they can pay, and we can completely customize. So we can decide what they can access, actions they can do, what they can see in the app, and same thing about bookkeeping permissions and admin permissions. Can they manage approval workflows? Can they manage members, etc., etc. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think, on a quick demo. And we only have 10 minutes left, which I think is perfect to discuss how Martin pitches this service to clients. Martin, before we dive into that, anything else you want to add on this short demo?
No, I think you've covered everything, so happy to continue with the agenda.
Yep, perfect. Great. So pitching and pricing the service. When you pitch, Martin, this service to your clients, how do you present it? What do you highlight as the biggest benefits for your clients?
So two sides to it really. The first is the time and the cost saving, and when I say time and cost, I mean the actual time cost. So as I mentioned earlier on, we're generally dealing with very busy founders or very busy operations people in our typical clients. So if we can present to them that actually there's something that they might spend a couple of hours every fortnight doing, if we can turn that into a 10-minute kind of approval step, then actually that's it's a big saving for them. And some founders, especially first-time founders or really early stage founders, they don't realize that they shouldn't be doing this stuff. They should be focusing on the highest value things. And sometimes I'm quite keen to remind them that if they want their business to be successful, they need to focus on the right things, and preparing doing
Totally.
bookkeeping or payments is not the right thing to spend the time on. So that's number one. Second is really about the security side. So having a second set of eyes over your invoices, those little fraud prevention steps that we have in terms of checking the account and things like that. But just generally a second set of eyes over those things, rather than them taking an email that comes into their inbox to them directly typing sort codes and account numbers in that could be wrong. Having us as like a middle person in that process is a really safe step. So that's the second thing that I tend to focus on.
That's perfect. Thanks, Martin. And in terms of is it a standalone service, or is it part of wider like virtual CFO type of offering? How do you how have you structured this in your firm, I guess?
Yeah, it's a standalone service. Again, a CFO shouldn't be doing payments. So
Good point.
I would contest that including payables in a CFO offering is probably not CFO service. The CFO service is one that focuses on strategic matters, fundraising, commercials, modeling, and that kind of stuff. That's how I perceive a CFO anyway. So I definitely keep it away from sort of CFO and finance director type offerings, and have it more as something that complements the bookkeeping service. But that's personal preference. I know lots of people have a different view on that, and it works very well for many companies. So others might include it in that sort of offering. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. It's a question from audience, I guess.
Well, yeah. So just one from me, Martin. What would you say is the biggest pain it solves for your customers? What would be the number one?
Time processing. So many of our founders, before we mentioned Apron to them, so many of them are typing in sort codes and account numbers. So it really is just about the time. The companies that we deal with, because they're venture capital backed, they have a lot of money in the bank generally. So it's never about cash flow. It's never about paying something late. It's more about just taking an administrative burden away from them. But as I'm sure many companies have very different needs, but it's just the nature of the industry that I operate in nowadays.
And is that the same for your practice? Is that something that it's saving you time, or is there something else that's the top for yours?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough now that I have a finance manager internally, so I've kind of stepped away from doing the finance for my own business, and she's taken on the bookkeeping and the payment run process pretty seamlessly. I'm still the only person that has access to the operating account, and so this enables my finance person to prepare the bookkeeping, prepare the payments. I get that once a week on a Tuesday every single week, and if I were to time it on my phone, the time it takes from me receiving that email to executing the payment, I could probably do it in less than 60 seconds. It's that straightforward. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the average business owner because I'm an accountant, but many of our clients can now take those same benefits, and they probably should spend more than 60 seconds checking it, of course. But generally speaking, that's the sort of time saving you can get. Whereas before my finance manager, I was doing these things myself, and it might be more of a 1 hour task. And 1 hour is a lot, especially for people that have running a business, and in my case a young family as well. So I try to make sure that I make the most of my kind of 40-hour working week, and taking away those kinds of pains has been hugely beneficial to me personally.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, I just thought I'd ask that.
No, great question. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for jumping in. And final question for you, Martin, before we open up floor to more questions from audience. How do you price it? It's always tricky. There are so many approaches and kind of so many schools of thought. So if you could share your approach to pricing this service, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that there's two main ways of handling this, and accountants, it works both ways for accountants, in my opinion. But one is that you kind of absorb the cost of Apron, and you sort of include have a bank payment service that you price as a bank payment service. So the kind of the cost that you as a practice pay to Apron is kind of included within that price. Others will recharge the software onto the customer, and personally, when I'm kind of dealing with sort of sales inquiries, the more software you're charging back to the client, the more, in my opinion, there's a perceived kind of you being expensive in the client's mind. And if you send a proposal that has Xero software costs this, BrightPay software costs this, Apron bookkeeping software costs this, Apron payment software costs this, it looks expensive, and all of a sudden it feels like they're paying loads for software. Whereas if you can actually wrap those costs more into your general service and absorb them, personally, I think that goes down better. And that was really an observation that I made, having lots and lots of those kind of calls. The uptake on proposals that I sent out without that software kind of granularity on the proposal was better, and we got more conversions. So I've taken that approach, but yeah, I think it can work both ways. I don't think I'm a particularly good salesperson, which probably doesn't help.
Me neither.
I hear that all the time, Martin, from accountants.
Yeah. Well, that's why the likes of James Ashford and those help us out.
I'm very conscious of time, and we've only got a few minutes left. So just wanted to ask a couple of questions that have come in, and also I have some others. But if we run out of time, then obviously we'll provide some details for them to contact, for people who are watching, to contact you guys and get them answered. But Roy asked, is there any plans to integrate with Sage?
It is on our roadmap, but we don't have a timeline yet, unfortunately. We're trying to coordinate with Sage. It's going very slow, to be honest with you, but we'll keep everyone posted on our LinkedIn and other channels.
Ian asked, with business owners being busy people, what is in place, or what has Martin put in place to stop employees trying to process an unapproved supplier with a legitimate bank account? It kind of led on from one of my questions as well, is that if an invoice comes in and it's got all the information, it's a fake invoice, but it's got all the information at the bottom, that's going to be pulled through. Is that right, from what I understood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what's in place there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that when we're dealing with the bookkeeping, we're generally asking for invoices and receipts to come in two forms. So paper receipts generally get scanned via the telephone, and they're not the kind of things that would include bank details anyway. They're like restaurant receipts and things like that. With the invoices, they have to forward the invoice to a unique Apron email address. I think unless your email is hacked, it's quite hard to know what that address is. It's not like it's something that you see published on your website as a finance department email address, like a finance app, type address. It doesn't exist. So I think it's quite hard for it to get there in the first place. I haven't seen it happen, but I do think that the step where it flags up that there's not a match is really the point where that can stop. So even if one of our employees, kind of accidentally forwards an invoice to Apron, I would hope that our employee is also seeing that red flag that says, this isn't a match. And going back to the kind of security side of things, having as many approvers in place as possible, especially as departments get bigger, having somebody, maybe an ops person, approve before it goes to the founder. That's just an added layer that might help. And generally speaking, you want the approver to be somebody who's across all departments, and that's why I always use the operations, because you'll have a familiarity with the subcontractors that the company's using, or the software that the company's using, or the legal advisors that the company's using, or the HR advisors, that type of thing. So if I'm sort of identifying the best person possible to be that approver, I would always lean towards an all-rounder, like an ops person.
Excellent. Just very quick one from me, Bogdan, as people probably listening will know my background is not anywhere near accountancy, so a bit more IT based. But is there protection, things like multi-factor authentication to be switched on for users to log in and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. All of those basics are there. Yep.
Excellent.
That's right.
You say basics. I have seen some software that doesn't have it, which is quite alarming. But yes, I get that, and I think it's useful for people to know. Before we go, we are bang on time, but before we go, there is one thing that we haven't done, which is explain how much it is and also how people can sign up. So if you could just share that, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So we have talking about Apron Pay. So we have pay as you go plan where there's no subscription and there is a price per payment. So it works for smaller businesses who don't have many much payables to process. And we have two subscription tiers, a basic and pro that give you generous payroll and supply payment allowances, and they cost £29 and £49 respectively. And the way to sign up is if you go to getapron.com. Yeah, you'll start from there. There's a start now button, and it will take you to the right place. I'll
get Michelle to put. Oh, you're going to put it in the group. I was going to say I'll get Michelle to do that, but
it's there.
Perfect. Oh, there you go. So if you want to sign up to Apron, please follow that link to getapron.com. I guess that just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining us today and answering all the questions. And if anybody does have any further questions that perhaps we've missed, or please let me know, and I'll be glad to pass them on to Bogdan and Martin. So thank you very much for coming along, and congratulations, Martin. You kept that quiet at the beginning about the new firm of the year for Accountants Excellency Award, so well done for that.
I did throw the trophy on.
I noticed it once it was said. Obviously, I noticed it once it was said. So, and I noticed you were then sat slightly over a bit as well. So that was
it's all tactical.
But brilliant. So so if anybody wants any more information, we've put the link in. Just leaves me to say one of our events just coming up in November is Mind Your Language, Simon. So we're going to be talking to anybody who is listening. It's a fabulous topic for me, and it's on the 28th of November, because I believe that accountants, by mere history of how everything's done, is that their language is very much about taking ownership of customer stuff, which I think hinders them getting information in on time and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be a really interesting thing. So that's on the 28th of November, and Michelle will hopefully put that in the chat box very shortly. But as I say, thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Well, you're still here, so thank you very much for watching the webinar with Apron. I hope you found the insights that Martin shared on how he has implemented Apron within his practice, and also the technical functions and how it can help you and your customers save time on payment processing. So somewhere on the screen now, you will see some videos that we recommend you watch next in order to help inspire, challenge, and support you to be the best accountancy practice owner you can be. Also, if you like our content, please click on the like on this video and subscribe to our channel to hear more from vendors within the industry and how you can improve your practice. So thank you very much again for joining us.